The second question in the new cycle of questions for the record is partially a question and partially an observation and a possible comment on an interpretation of, in general, how laws in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh, are to be seen in relation into over time. And it includes Chazal, it includes a rabbinical analysis of it that comes from yesterday's Daf Yomi, Kiddushin, Daf 71a, states, Amar Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, Kesef mitaher mamzerim, money purifies bastards, money purifies mamzerim, illegitimate children. And, Shinamar, because it says, the interpretation, the explanation is, money causes rich mamzerim to become assimilated with Jews of unflawed lineage, since other families marry them despite their flawed lineage. In the future, God will not single them out as mamzerim. He'll allow them to blend in. So even if they blended in a non-kosher way, then God will allow them to assimilate in. Okay? This is Chazal. This is the words of the sages. And we learned that the Torah laws are unchangeable. They never change. But my question is that if you really understand the words of the sages, then apparently, clearly, it does change. It has to. I'll read the whole statement. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, Kesef mitar mamzerim, money purifies illegitimate children. Because it says, he quotes a verse, Vayeshev mitzaref umi taher kesef. It's in Malachi 3. I forgot the exact verse. It doesn't say here. But Yashiv mitzaref mitar kesef. My megishe mincha b'tzedakah. And make an offering in righteousness. It's in Malachi 3, I think verse 3. I think so, but I think it's in chapter 3. My megishe mincha b'tzedakah. Okay. Money causes rich mamzerim to become assimilated with the Jews of unflawed lineage, since other families marry them despite their flawed lineage. In the future, God will not single them out as mamzerim, as it is stated, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And the way they're interpreting it is that he'll refine them, he'll purify them, meaning the fact that he'll purify them. He'll just allow them to come in, which teaches that money, silver, purifies them. What then is the connection to the next part of the phrase? That they shall offer to the Lord offerings in righteousness. Rabbi Yitzchak, tzedakah osa kadosh baruch hu im Yisrael shemishpacha shenitma'a nitma'a. The tzedakah, the offering in righteousness, is on God's part, according to this. That the Holy One, blessed be He, according to Rabbi Yitzchak, says, blessed be He, performed an act of righteousness with the Jewish people by establishing that a family that has become assimilated with Jews of unflawed lineage remains assimilated, which means they actually become kosher by mixing in, even if they did it through money, which is like not so kosher, bribery. That's the chesed, that's the tzedakah of Hashem. So I'm asking this very carefully, and those who can kind of read between the lines of what I'm saying, is that, there's this assertion that the Tanakh is unchangeable and never changes at all. That's it. You cannot change it. It's there forever. And if you look through it through Chazal, actually that isn't the case. Because if you look at the verse, let's go to Deuteronomy. The pasuk says, Lo yavo mamzer b'kal Hashem. Law. Okay? Gam dor asiri. Even the 10th generation. I'm not sure that if after the 10th you can. I'm not sure what that means. Gam dor asiri lo yavo. Lo b'kal Hashem. Even the 10th. So, the verse in the Torah says, a illegitimate child may not come to the Kahal Hashem, period. Even to the 10th generation. And so I have two questions. The first question is just, maybe since we're here, I'll ask it. It's the closest. It says unto the 10th generation. Does that mean the 11th generation it could? It just says up until the 10th generation, you can't come in. But it doesn't say after. So you can imply that maybe after the 11th is fine. Okay, that's one question. But that wasn't the main question. That was just a question because we're here. The main question is, how could Chazal change the meaning, so to speak, of the pasuk? And I'm saying that because I'm saying they're not changing the meaning. They're actually interpreting it that the verse can have a different application at different times. And so I'm asking on the people who say that the verses can never change and they can never shift. But they do shift. According to Chazal, they shift. Because it says, if it says that a mamzer cannot come into the Kahal of Hashem, and this Chazal here, in this piece of Talmud, it doesn't make any distinction about the generations. It just says, Kesef is Matar the mamzerin. It could be even the first generation. It doesn't say any generations. So even the verse that says to the 10th generation, this is not the 11th generation. This is just even, it just says a blanket statement that money purifies mamzers. So we see that really the actual law in the Torah is subject to different circumstances that happen afterwards, according to Chazal, even by the will of Hashem. So it's the question is how can Chazal change it? But it's really not a question because it's saying it's kind of proof that you can change it. You can change it, just depending on your interpretation of it. Another question could be, why the 10th generation? That's another, but that's for other nationalities also, up to the 10th generation. I think Ammon says Ammoni and Moavi, even the 10th generation, yeah. So that's question 2 with different parts in it for the new set of questions to the record.